Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I gotta tell you, I'm absolutely pumped to dive into this topic today, because we are literally watching a massive, industry-defining shift happen right in front of us. For the past couple of years, the whole economics of artificial intelligence basically revolved around one thing: a mad dash for raw brain power. It was this Wild West blank check era where whoever built the smartest, most capable model won, and nobody really cared what it cost. Well, the dust is finally settling, and that era, it's officially over. What we're looking at now is a super rapid pivot from that race for sheer intelligence straight into a brutal, highly competitive price war. The whole game has shifted to who can build the most affordable, highly efficient systems.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this specific question right here is exactly what triggered the entire market shift. When enterprise companies first got their hands on these AI tools, they went all in, right? The hype was totally real, the potential seemed limitless. But then, the end of the month rolled around. What actually happens when that incredible world-changing AI hype meets a literal multi-million-dollar monthly invoice? Well, the reality is pretty crippling. Businesses got hit with what the industry is now calling bill shock. It turns out the immense financial burden of running these cutting-edge models day to day was completely unsustainable. The technology was brilliant, for sure, but the business model was totally broken.
So here is our roadmap for the explainer today. First up, the paradigm shift. Then we'll hit the price war strategy. Third, the hardware battlefield. Fourth, customer victory. And we'll wrap it all up with looming threats.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the paradigm shift. We are ending the blank check era.
You know, historical AI competition completely ignored cost structures. It feels like just yesterday, the top strategy for enterprises was this thing called token maxing. Basically, companies were encouraging their employees to use AI limitlessly. Just throw everything at the AI, let's see what it can do. But yeah, that staggering bill shock we just talked about, it forced businesses to abandon that reckless adoption pretty much overnight. The new reality we're living in today is all about strict auditing. Now, companies are meticulously poring over their AI bills, restricting internal spending, and frankly, they're demanding extreme cost controls directly from the AI providers themselves.
So the crucial point here is that you really can't understand the economics of AI without understanding the commoditization of tokens. Think of it exactly like your monthly water or electricity bill. When a company's software processes massive documents or generates mountains of text, it is actively burning through tokens. That makes tokens the fundamental currency and really the main battleground of this new price war.
If we map this out chronologically, you get a really clear view of how crazy fast this market is moving. Phase 1 was the performance race. Companies built highly expensive, massive models, and businesses just ate them up. But that led directly into Phase 2, the bill shock. Those massive invoices hit, panic ensued, and spending got locked down. Which brings us to Phase 3, the strategic pivot. Developers completely flipped their focus, launching highly efficient architectures just to slash those token prices. And finally, that pivot has sparked Phase 4, the infrastructure war, where developers are basically forced to build their own custom hardware empires just to lock in those low-cost advantages.
Moving right along to Section 2, the price war strategy. This is all about efficiency and subsidies. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that we are currently right in the thick of Phase 3. The three biggest Goliaths in the space are aggressively fighting to lower your utility bill, but they're using completely different strategies to do it. Take OpenAI with GPT 5.6. They used to be the pioneers of premium high-margin pricing. Now, they've had to re-engineer their software to do the same work using way fewer tokens, while throwing in complex budget tracking analytics just to keep customers from churning. Then you have SpaceXAI with Grok 4.5. They're claiming double the token efficiency compared to rivals. That means doing the exact same amount of heavy lifting for half the data processing cost. And finally, Meta with Muse Spark 1.1. Meta is playing a totally different game here. Because they have a massive fire hose of cash from their core online advertising business, they can actually subsidize their AI API access. They don't even need to make high profit margins on every single AI request. That completely changes the math and allows them to violently undercut the rest of the market.
To put that aggressive undercutting into perspective, just look at this number, $1.25. Because of that ad-subsidized strategy we just talked about, that is literally what Meta's Muse Spark 1.1 costs per million input tokens. Think about that, 1 million tokens of advanced processing power for a little over $1. This staggering price drop is acting like a magnet for the broader developer ecosystem. It's essentially forcing legacy providers into a corner where they have no choice but to match these rock-bottom prices or completely perish.
Which perfectly sets up Section 3,
the hardware battlefield, controlling the physical world.
Up until now, we've mostly talked about the abstract, digital nature of software and tokens. But Phase 4 of our timeline is entirely about controlling the physical world. See, the only way to sustainably provide AI at $1.25 for a million tokens is to completely own and control the physical infrastructure it runs on. You have to bypass those expensive third-party cloud providers, and doing that requires scale that is almost hard to wrap your head around. 200,000. That's the number of GPUs powering SpaceXAI's Colossus supercomputer cluster, which, by the way, they built in absolute record time. This is the heavy, massive physical reality of artificial intelligence today. It demands an astounding amount of highly specialized custom hardware just to drive down the cost of delivering it.
But get this, SpaceXAI isn't stopping at earthly supercomputers. Because SpaceXAI is the unified AI division of SpaceX, they can leverage all of that aerospace logistics power for a truly radical, sci-fi level long-term plan. Vertical integration in space. Yes, literally in space. Their goal is to run future orbital data centers using solar-powered AI compute satellites. By moving all that intense processing off-world, they can entirely bypass Earthbound electricity and cooling costs. And honestly, those are two of the biggest financial drains on running AI models today. It's an absolutely stunning display of just how far these companies are willing to go to win the infrastructure war.
All right, Section 4, Customer Victory, Democratizing Artificial Intelligence. So while this is an absolute bloodbath at the top, with tech giants burning billions just to undercut each other, for the rest of us, it actually results in the democratization of artificial intelligence. This intense competition is creating massive, highly practical wins for businesses and developers at the bottom of the food chain. Step 1 is budget predictability. Because of this precise pricing and built-in spending controls, businesses can finally scale these AI tools across their whole workforce without breaking out in a cold sweat over runaway usage bills. Step 2 is hybrid model routing. This is super cool. Platforms like OpenRouter now let businesses dynamically and automatically switch between hundreds of AI models in real time, all based on price and performance. You just route your simple, everyday tasks to those ultra-cheap models and only pull out the expensive high-tier models for highly complex reasoning. And Step 3 is lowering entry barriers. The base cost of intelligence has essentially dropped to the price of a cheap utility. You no longer need $1 billion in venture capital to build a seriously powerful AI-driven product. Let's move to and see how this builds into our final point. Section 5. Looming threats, the hidden risks and limitations.
Look, as amazing as affordable AI sounds, this shift is definitely not without some massive, hidden risks that threaten the very sustainability of this whole cheap AI setup. When you dig into the source data, a few severe limitations jump right out. First, there's a very real risk of unrecouped infrastructure investments. AI developers have literally poured hundreds of billions of dollars into microchips and massive data centers. By slashing their prices down to the absolute floor, they are seriously risking their own ability to ever make that money back. Second, we're seeing intense environmental and energy pressures. Operating ultra-large physical clusters like SpaceAI's Colossus, it requires unbelievable, staggering amounts of power. Actually, it's already leading to intense local regulatory scrutiny and environmental pushback because these systems are severely straining local power grids. And third, there's the very real danger of proprietary vendor lock-in.
Which brings us to a critical final thought I want to leave you with today. As these companies vertically integrate their models with these massive custom hardware ecosystems, whether we're talking about supercomputers down here on Earth or literal satellites up in orbit, we have to ask ourselves, are these ultra-cheap models truly empowering businesses, or are they just an elaborate trap designed to lock us into a single provider's proprietary physical network? Think about it. If you build your entire business infrastructure on AI that costs $1.25 today, what exactly happens to your company when the provider, who literally owns the hardware floating in space, decides it's time to raise the rent? It is a fascinating paradigm shift, and for sure, one we are going to continue watching very closely. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. I really hope this helped you untangle the rapidly changing economics of AI. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.